Imagine sitting at your Christmas Eve dinner, surrounded by family, the clink of champagne glasses echoing love and trust then. In one brutal moment, discovering your own children are plotting to steal your $250 million empire. What would you do if your blood turned against you? Their smiles hiding knives of betrayal. Tonight, we unravel a story of greed so raw it'll chill, your bones, secrets, lies, and a fortune hanging by a thread. Can one man fight back when his legacy becomes a battlefield? Stay tuned, because this tale of loyalty and deceit will leave you questioning everything. Welcome to RevengeX, where electrifying stories of betrayal and triumph set your soul ablaze. We're thrilled to have you join our community of viewers who celebrate unyielding resilience and fierce courage. Hit that subscribe button to never miss a heart-pounding tale. And it'd be incredible if you smashed the like button, shared this video, or dropped a comment with the time and city or country you're watching from. Your likes, shares, and heartfelt comments are the greatest spiritual gift, the fuel that keeps this channel burning bright. Now, buckle up for a story that'll hit you right in the feels. Let's dive in. My name is Edward Whitaker, and at 68, I thought I'd seen every shade of loyalty and deceit a man could endure. I built my fortune from nothing, scraping together a real estate empire in Seattle's cutthroat market, turning empty lots into gleaming high-rises worth hundreds of millions. My hands still carry the calluses from my early days swinging hammers, and my heart carries the weight of raising 2 kids alone after my wife, Clara, passed 10 years ago. I thought I'd raise them right, James and Olivia, my pride, my legacy. But on Christmas Eve 2024, in the glow of my waterfront mansion's chandelier, I learned betrayal cuts deeper when it comes from your own blood. The dining room smelled of pine and roasted turkey. The table draped in linen, so crisp it could have doubled as a contract. 20-foot windows framed Puget Sound, the water black and restless under a winter sky. I'd spent $500,000 on this dinner caterers, a string quartet, crystal flutes for champagne that cost more per bottle than most people's rent. It was supposed to be a night of family, of passing the torch. James, 40, sat across from me, his suit tailored sharp enough to cut glass, but his eyes darted like a man hiding a blade. Olivia, 36, toyed with her fork, her smile thin as the ice on the deck outside. Their spouses, Karen and Tom, flanked them, all polished teeth and rehearsed warmth. At the table's end sat my oldest friend, Marcus Tate, a retired lawyer who'd been with me since the days we shared a one-bedroom apartment, his steady gaze my only anchor. Then there was Vanessa Reed, my financial advisor, her sleek ponytail and sharp blazer screaming ambition. I trusted her with my books, $50 million in liquid assets, another $200 million in properties. She'd been my shadow for a decade or so, I thought. The first crack came before the soup was cleared. James leaned forward, his voice slick as oil. Dad, we've been talking. This house, this life, it's too much for you now. You're not young anymore. His words hit like a slap, but I kept my face still, the way you do when you've stared down worse. Olivia chimed in, her tone syrupy. Fake as the snow dusting the centerpiece. We found a buyer, Dad. $10 million for this place. It's a steal, and it'll set you up in a condo downtown low maintenance, closer to us. Closer to them. The lie burned. I'd paid off this house decades ago, poured $30 million into renovations alone. They knew that, or I thought they did. I sipped my wine, letting the silence stretch, my pulse hammering like a gavel. No mortgage, I said, voice flat. Clara and I cleared it years ago. The table froze. James's jaw twitched, a tell I'd known since he was a boy stealing from my wallet. Olivia's eyes flicked to Vanessa, who coughed, her fingers tightening around her napkin. Marcus caught my gaze, his nods subtle but solid, like he'd already smelled the rot. Then came the second blow. Dad, James said, leaning closer, his voice dropping to a hiss. We know you're sitting on $50 million in cash. Mom's accounts, your investments, it's not safe. We've set up a trust for your protection. Protection. The word was a knife, and he twisted it. I stood, my chair scraping the hardwood. A trust? My voice was low, but it carried the weight of 40 years building something they thought they could carve up. Vanessa spoke up, her tone too smooth, like she'd rehearsed it. It's practical, Edward. I've drafted the papers. James and Olivia would manage it. You'd live comfortably $5 million a year, tax-free. $5 million. A fraction of my own fortune, dangled like a bone to a dog. My chest tightened, not from age, but from the betrayal, raw and jagged, like glass in my throat. They'd planned this, my own kids, my advisor, plotting to strip me bare while I sat at my own table. The third shock hit as dessert was served cheesecake flown in from New York, 20,000 for the batch. Karen, James's wife, let it slip, her voice sharp with greed. We've already got a buyer for the Bainbridge lot too, 15 million. It's for Emily's future, Dad. Emily, my granddaughter, the only one not at this table, the one I'd been sending $1 million a year for her college fund. They didn't know I'd secured her future in a trust they couldn't touch. But the Bainbridge lot? That was Clara's dream. A 10-acre sanctuary we'd bought for 20 million, meant for Emily to build her life on. They'd sold it out from under me, or thought they had. My hands shook, not from weakness, but from rage, a fire I hadn't felt since I fought off a crooked partner in the 90s. Marcus leaned forward, his voice calm but cutting. You don't have Edward's signature, James. You're selling air. Vanessa's face paled, her fingers fumbling with her phone. Olivia snapped. This isn't about you, Marcus. Stay out of it. Her venom stunned me. She'd always been my little girl, now spitting poison like a stranger. I wanted to scream, to upend the table, to demand why they thought they could gut my life like a fish. But Clara's voice echoed in my head. Don't fight their way. Fight yours. So I sat, my heart a storm, and said, You think you can take what I built? Try it. The room went quiet, the quartet faltering. Christmas lights blinked outside, mocking the darkness pooling inside me. This wasn't just about money, it was about trust, shattered on a night meant for love. The Christmas Eve dinner lingered like a bad taste, the kind that sticks to your tongue no matter how much you swallow. I stood at the kitchen island, the marble cold under my palms, staring at the remnants of the meal half-eaten turkey, a $20,000 cheesecake, now melting into itself like my trust in my own kids. The chandelier's light caught the edge of a wine glass, throwing a prism across the room, sharp as the betrayal still slicing through me. I'd built this house, this life, with Clara, every brick, a promise we'd made to each other. Now James and Olivia, my own flesh, were trying to tear it down, their voices still echoing in my head. Too much for you, Dad. A trust for your protection. Protection, my ass. They wanted my empire, my 50 million in cash, my 200 million in properties, carved up like a holiday roast. The doorbell chimed, a sound that used to mean joy, but now felt like a warning shot. Marcus, my rock, was still in the dining room, sipping coffee, his eyes scanning the papers I'd pulled from my safe. Clara's handwritten notes, tucked away like a secret weapon. I opened the door to find Ray Delgado, my old contractor, a man who'd laid every foundation I'd ever built, his weathered face tight with worry. Eddie, he said, voice low, we got a problem. Behind him stood a stranger, a wiry guy in a cheap suit, his smirk screaming trouble. Vince Carver, a real estate shark I'd crossed paths with in the 90s, back when he tried to scam me out of a downtown lot. Ray nodded toward him. This guy's been sniffing around your Bainbridge property, says he's got a deal with James. Vince stepped forward, his grin all teeth, like a pit bull eyeing a bone. Whitaker, you old bastard, still clinging to that pile of dirt? My client's offering 15 million for Bainbridge. Your boy James already shook on it. Said you're too senile to handle your own damn deals. His words hit like a punch to the gut, each syllable dripping with street-slick venom, the kind of talk you hear in backroom poker games or alley deals gone sour. My blood boiled, but my face stayed stone. Senile. The word burned, not because it was true, but because my own son had fed it to this sleaze. I wanted to grab Vince by his knockoff tie and slam him against the wall, but Clara's voice whispered again, Fight your way, Eddie. James doesn't speak for me, I said, my voice low, steady, like the click of a lock. You got no deal without my name. Vince laughed, a sharp, ugly bark. Come on, old man, you're 1 foot in the grave. Let the kids cash out before you croak and the IRS takes it all. Or what? You gonna live forever in this tacky-ass mansion? Ray stepped between us, his broad shoulders a wall. Back off, Carver. You're on Eddie's property, talking shit about his life. Show some respect, or I'll drag you to the curb myself. Vince sneered but stepped back, tossing a business card on the porch. Call me when you're ready to stop playing King, Whitaker. I shut the door, my hands shaking, not from fear, but from the rage of being carved up by my own blood and a lowlife like Vince. Ray followed me inside, his boots heavy on the hardwood. Eddie, I heard from my crew James has been meeting with developers behind your back. They're eyeing your entire portfolio, not just Bainbridge. Olivia's in on it too, pushing papers with Vanessa. The second betrayal landed harder than the first. My kids weren't just after the house, they wanted the whole damn empire. Every high-rise, every lot, every dollar I'd bled for. My chest tightened, a vice of grief and fury. I'd given them everything, private schools, trust funds, vacations to Aspen, And now they were selling me out like I was a stock gone sour. Marcus looked up from the dining table, his glasses glinting. Eddie, Clara left you something they don't know about. He slid a leather-bound folder across the table, one I hadn't seen since Clara's last hospital stay. Inside was a bombshell, a deed to a vineyard in Napa Valley, worth $30 million, titled solely in Clara's name. No mention of me, James, or Olivia. A handwritten note in her sharp cursive read, Eddie, this is your shield. Use it when they come for you. My throat closed up. Clara had known even then that our kids would turn. She'd built me a fortress, and I'd been too blind with grief to see it. Then came the third shock, a text from my banker, Lila Chen, a woman who'd managed my accounts with the precision of a surgeon. Edward, urgent. Vanessa attempted to transfer $10 million from your primary account to an offshore trust. I froze it. Call me. My knees buckled, and I gripped the table. Vanessa, my trusted advisor, the woman I'd invited to this very dinner, was in on it. She'd sat there, smiling, while planning to gut me for $10 million. The betrayal wasn't just a knife, it was a chainsaw, tearing through every trust I'd ever built. I wanted to scream, to call her back and demand why, but the why didn't matter. Greed did. My kids, Vanessa, even Vince, they saw me as a vault to crack, not a father, not a man. I sank into a chair, the folder open in front of me, Clara's note staring back like a lifeline. My mind churned, caught between rage and despair. I'd spent decades building for them, for Emily, for a legacy I thought would bind us. Now, it was a noose they'd tied themselves. Ray put a hand on my shoulder. Eddie, you're tougher than this. Clara knew it. Don't let these vultures take what's yours. His loyalty, rough and unpolished, was a tether pulling me back from the edge. But inside, I was breaking every memory of James's boyhood laughter, Olivia's crayon drawings, now tainted by their greed. How had I raised wolves? Was it my fault, shielding them from the world's teeth? Or was it theirs, choosing to bite the hand that fed them? Marcus flipped through the folder, his voice calm but firm. We hit back, Eddie. Hard, legal, clean, but final. I'll draft cease and desist letters for Vince and Vanessa. Lila can lock down your accounts. And this vineyard? It's your ace. They don't know it exists. Use it to reset the game. His words were a spark, but my heart was still heavy, drowning in the betrayal. I looked out at the sound, its waves churning like my thoughts. I could fight, yes, but every step would be a reminder of what I'd lost, not just Clara, but the kids I thought I knew. The dining room felt colder now, the Christmas lights outside flickering like a lie. I nodded at Marcus, my voice barely a whisper. Do it. They want a war, they'll get one. But as I said it, my chest ached with the truth. No victory would erase the hole they'd carved in me tonight. The dawn after Christmas Eve broke over Seattle like a bruise, gray and heavy, the kind of sky that makes you question if the sun ever meant its promises. I stood on the deck of my waterfront mansion, the salt air sharp against my face, Puget Sound churning below like it was trying to spit out the lies I'd swallowed last night. The leather folder from Clara lay open on the cedar table beside me. Her note, Eddie, this is your shield, a quiet fire in my chest. But the betrayal, that jagged living thing clawed deeper. James, Olivia, Vanessa, even Vince Carver, all circling like vultures, their talons aimed at my $50 million fortune and the $200 million empire I'd built brick by brick. My hands gripped the railing, knuckles white, as I fought the urge to scream into the wind. Clara's garden, her lavender bushes, her hand-laid stone path stretched out behind me, a monument to a life they wanted to bulldoze for profit. The phone buzzed, a venomous little rattle. A voicemail from James, his voice dripping with the kind of street-smart sneer he'd picked up from too many late-night deals. Yo, Dad, you're playing hardball, huh? Think you can freeze us out? We've got lawyers, old man. Better ones than your washed-up buddy Marcus. That $10 million trust Vanessa set up? It's happening, with or without your sorry ass signing off. Stop acting like you're still the big shot. The words were a blade, not just for their cruelty, but for the casual way he wielded them, like I was some has-been he could shove aside. My heart pounded, a mix of rage and grief so raw it felt like I was bleeding inside. My own son, the boy I'd taught to ride a bike, now spitting on my life like it was trash. Before I could process the sting, a second blow landed. Ray Delgado, my loyal contractor, called from his truck, his voice tight with urgency. Eddie, you need to get to my office now. I just caught Vanessa's assistant, some punk named Derek Holt, trying to bribe one of my crew to forge your signature on a sale contract for your downtown tower, $25 million on the table. I sent him packing, but this kid's bad news. Works for Vince. Derek, a new face in this snake pit, a 20. Something with a slick fade and a grin like he'd already cashed my checks. My stomach churned. Vanessa wasn't just betraying me. She'd built a whole damn network to gut me. I wanted to believe it was just greed. But the truth was uglier. They thought I was weak, a relic to be plundered. The thought made my chest ache, not with age, but with the weight of being erased by those I'd trusted most. I drove to Ray's office, the city blurring past, like a memory I couldn't hold. Inside, Ray stood with Maria Salazar, my longtime housekeeper, who'd shown up unannounced, her eyes red from crying. "Mr. Whitaker," she said, voice trembling, "I found emails on Olivia's old laptop in the guest room. She's been talking to Vince for months, planning to sell your Whidbey Island estate $30 million, they said. She told him you're losing it, that you'd never notice." Maria clutched a crumpled tissue, her loyalty a knife in my heart because it made the betrayal sharper. Olivia, my little girl who'd once drawn me as a superhero, now painting me as a senile fool to a lowlife like Vince. I wanted to collapse, to let the grief swallow me, but Clara's voice cut through. "Fight your way, Eddie." I hugged Maria, her warmth a lifeline, and promised her I'd handle it. The third shock came as I sat in Ray's cramped office, the air thick with sawdust and coffee. My phone lit up with a text from Lila Chen, my banker. "Edward, emergency. Vanessa tried to liquidate your offshore investment fund $15 million. I blocked it, but she's claiming power of attorney. Call now. Power of attorney." The phrase was a gunshot. Vanessa, who'd sat at my table last night, laughing over champagne, had forged legal documents to steal my life's work. My hands shook, not from weakness, but from a fury so deep it felt like it could crack the earth. I pictured her smug face, her polished lies, and imagined confronting her, tearing into her with words as sharp as hers. But the deeper pain was James and Olivia's complicity. They'd handed her the keys to my vault, believing I was too broken to notice. Ray slammed his fist on the desk, his voice rough with anger. "Eddie, these bastards are playing dirty. Vanessa's got Derek running errands, Vince is circling your properties, and your kids are signing off on it like you're already in the ground." Maria nodded, tears spilling. "They don't see you, Mr. Whitaker. They see dollar signs." Their words were a mirror, reflecting a truth I'd dodged. My kids didn't just want my money, they wanted me gone, erased, a footnote in their spreadsheets. The realization was a physical pain, like a heart attack I couldn't medicate. I'd given them everything, love, homes, futures, and they'd turned it into a weapon. My mind spiraled. Had I failed them? Had I loved them too much, shielded them from consequences until they thought they could take without giving? Marcus arrived, his briefcase, a quiet promise of order. "Eddie," he said, spreading documents across the desk. "We've got leverage. Clara's Napa Vineyard $30 million, untouchable. I've drafted injunctions to block Vanessa's transfers and Vince's deals. Lila's locking your accounts tighter than Fort Knox." His calm was a lifeline, but it couldn't dull the ache. I looked at Ray, at Maria, their faces fierce with loyalty, and felt a flicker of strength. But then Derek Holt burst through the door, uninvited, his smirk pure venom. "Whitaker, you're done, man. James says you're a fossil, hoarding cash you can't even spend. Sign the damn trust, or we'll bury you in court. Your kids are done waiting for you to kick it." His words were a street brawl, raw and vicious, each one a blow to my soul. Ray grabbed him by the collar, shoving him toward the door. "Get the hell out, punk, before I break your face." I stood, my voice steady despite the storm inside. "Tell James and Olivia they've got one chance to back off. No trust, no sale, no power of attorney. My empire, my rules." Derek laughed, a hyena's cackle, but he left. Alone again, I sank into a chair, the folder's weight heavy in my lap. Clara's lavender bushes flashed in my mind, her hands in the dirt, her smile when we planned our future. Now, that future was a battlefield, and I was fighting my own blood. The grief was a tidal wave grief for Clara, for the kids I thought I knew, for the man I thought I was. But beneath it, a resolve hardened. They'd underestimated me, and that was their mistake. I'd protect what Clara left me, not just for me, but for Emily, the only one who still saw me as more than a bank. The war was on, and I'd fight it with every dollar, every deed, every ounce of my soul. The Seattle rain fell in sheets, hammering the roof of my waterfront mansion like 1,000 accusations. I stood in Clara's old study, the scent of her lavender hand cream still clinging to the air, a ghost that refused to fade. Her leather-bound folder lay open on the oak desk, its secrets $30 million in a Napa vineyard, untouchable by my vulture children, my only shield against the storm of betrayal that had erupted since Christmas Eve. James, Olivia, Vanessa, and now Derek Holt, their claws sharper with every hour, were carving up my $50 million fortune and $200 million empire like it was theirs to claim. My chest was a furnace of grief and rage, each heartbeat a reminder of the family I'd thought I had, now replaced by strangers who saw me as a cash machine to be cracked open. Clara's note, Eddie, this is your shield, burned in my mind, but the weight of their deceit pressed harder, threatening to crush the man I'd fought to be. The first shock came at dawn, a call from Marcus, his voice clipped, urgent. Eddie, I dug deeper into Vanessa's accounts. She's been funneling money, $2 million, maybe $3 million, into a shell company tied to Vince Carver. James signed off on it, used your name to authorize transfers. They're claiming you're incompetent, pushing for guardianship. Guardianship. The word was a sledgehammer, smashing through the last threads of trust I'd clung to. My own son, who I'd carried on my shoulders at Seahawks games, now branding me a doddering fool to steal my life's work. I gripped the desk, my vision blurring. Not from age, but from a pain so raw, it felt like my heart was tearing itself apart. I wanted to call James, to scream, to demand how he could sell his father's soul for a payout, but Clara's whisper held me back. Fight your way, Eddie. Before I could catch my breath, the second blow landed. Maria, my housekeeper, burst into the study, her face pale, clutching a crumpled envelope. Mr. Whitaker, I found this in the trash, Olivia's handwriting. It's a letter to a lawyer saying you've been erratic, that you need a conservator. She's claiming you gave her verbal permission to sell your Mercer Island condo, $40 million. Her voice broke, tears spilling as she handed me the paper. Olivia's neat script, once used for birthday cards, now a weapon to declare me unfit. The condo, a gift Clara and I had bought for our retirement, a sanctuary of glass and steel overlooking the city, was being peddled behind my back. My knees buckled, and I sank into Clara's chair, the leather creaking under my weight. The betrayal wasn't just financial, it was personal. A knife twisted by the daughter who'd once called me her hero. My mind churned. Had I been too soft? Too generous? Or had they always seen me as a mark, a stepping stone to their greed? The third shock hit as I opened the envelope. Tucked inside was a flash drive, labeled in Olivia's hand. Whitaker Assets. I plugged it into Clara's old laptop, my hands trembling. It was a spreadsheet. A cold, calculated map of my empire, every property, every account, every stock portfolio, meticulously divided between James, Olivia, and Vanessa. They'd valued my life at $250 million, split 3 ways, with notes on how to handle Dad's resistance. One line, in Vanessa's sharp font, read, "Push conservatorship hard. He's too stubborn to sign willingly." My breath caught, a sob I refused to let out. They weren't just stealing, they were planning to cage me, to strip my freedom under the guise of care. The room spun, and I clutched the desk, fighting the urge to smash the laptop, to burn the house down and walk away. But Clara's garden outside, its lavender swaying in the rain, anchored me. She'd built this shield for a reason. Then the doorbell rang, a harsh buzz that cut through the silence. Ray Delgado stood on the porch, soaked, his face grim. Beside him was a new face, Sammy Ruiz, a private investigator I'd hired years ago to sniff out a crooked partner. "Eddie," Sammy said, shaking water from his jacket, "you've got bigger problems. Vince Carver's got a crew forging documents to sell your Bellevue office park $60 million. I caught one of his goons, some sleaze named Tommy Vega, bragging about it at a bar last night. Said James promised him a cut. Tommy, another snake in the grass, his name dripping with the same street grit as Vince. I pictured him, all swagger and cheap cologne, laughing over a beer while plotting to gut my legacy. Ray's fists clenched. "I'll break their damn necks, Eddie. This ain't right." Sammy nodded, his eyes hard. "We can shut this down, but we need to move fast." Before I could respond, Vince himself called, his voice oozing through the speaker like oil on pavement. "Whitaker, you ancient prick, you still think you're running this show? Your kids are done with your old man bullshit. That $60 million deal's going through and your signature's already on it. Derek's got skills, man. Give it up, or we'll drag your ass through court till you're begging to be put in a home." His laugh was a chainsaw, raw and vicious, the kind of taunt you hear in dive bars or back alley deals. My blood roared, but I kept my voice ice cold. "You're playing with fire, Carver. Touch my empire, and I'll bury you in lawsuits so deep you'll choke on paper," he snorted. "Keep dreaming, Grandpa." The line went dead, leaving me staring at the phone, my heart a war zone of fury and despair. I turned to Sammy, who was already pulling out a notepad. Eddie, I've got proof texts, recordings, even a photo of Derek with the forged contracts. We can nail them. Ray growled. Let me at him first. I'll make him regret crossing you. Maria, still clutching her tissue, whispered. They don't deserve you, Mr. Whitaker. Clara would be so angry. Her words broke something in me, a dam holding back years of love I'd poured into James and Olivia. I'd built them mansions, funded their dreams, and now they were selling my soul for profit. The pain was a living thing, wrapping around my ribs, squeezing until I could barely breathe. I wanted to forgive them, to believe they could change, but every new betrayal, Vanessa's theft, Olivia's lies, James's signatures piled on like bricks, walling off the father I'd been. Marcus stepped in, his calm, a beacon in the chaos. Eddie, we've got Clara's vineyard, your accounts, and Sammy's evidence. We'll file for injunctions today, freeze every deal, and expose their fraud. But you need to decide, stay and fight, or take Clara's shield and disappear. Disappear. The word hung there, heavy with possibility. I saw Clara's face, her smile in the lavender, her faith in me. My kids thought I was a relic, but I was still Edward Whitaker, the man who'd built an empire from dirt. I looked at Ray, Maria, Sammy, their loyalty, a fire against the cold of betrayal. We fight, I said, my voice steady, though inside I was fracturing. But we fight smart. They want my empire? They'll choke on it. The rain outside pounded harder, but for the first time, I felt the storm shifting, not against me, but for me. The Seattle rain had softened to a drizzle, but the air in Clara's study felt heavier, like the walls themselves were holding their breath. I sat at her oak desk, the leather-bound folder open, its pages proof of a $30 million Napa vineyard, my secret weapons spread out like battle plans. The betrayals kept coming, each one a deeper cut. James and Olivia plotting to steal my $50 million cash reserves, Vanessa siphoning millions, Derek Holt forging my name, and Vince Carver circling my $200 million empire like a hyena. My heart was a furnace, burning with grief and fury. Each new revelation a log on the fire. Clara's lavender garden outside the window swayed, a quiet reminder of her strength. But inside, I was fracturing, torn between the father who'd loved his kids and the man they'd forced me to become. The first shock of the morning hit like a freight train. Lila Chen, my banker, called, her voice sharp with panic. Eddie, I found a hidden account, $5 million, drained overnight. Vanessa used a backdoor code, and James's email was on the transfer request. They routed it to a Cayman Island shell company tied to Vince. $5 million, gone in a blink. My own son's fingerprints on the theft. My hands clenched, nails digging into my palms, drawing blood. I pictured James, his smug grin at Christmas Eve, calling me a fossil, and now he'd robbed me blind, thinking I wouldn't notice. The pain wasn't just the money, it was the erasure. The way he'd reduced me to a mark, not a father. I wanted to drive to his penthouse, kick down the door, and drag him out by his tailored collar, but Clara's note burned in my mind. Fight your way, Eddie. I swallowed the rage, my throat raw, and nodded at the phone. Lock everything else, Lila. They get nothing more. Before I could regroup, the second blow landed. Sammy Ruiz, my PI, stormed into the study, his leather jacket dripping from the rain. Eddie, you're not going to believe this shit. I tailed Tommy Vega last night, caught him meeting Olivia at a dive bar in Fremont. She handed him a thumb drive labeled Whitaker Trust. It's got plans to sell your Lake Union Marina, $75 million. She's claiming you're delusional, said it to his face, laughing like it's a goddamn joke. Olivia's laughter, once the sound of summer picnics, now a dagger in my chest. My daughter, plotting to strip my legacy while mocking my sanity. My vision blurred, not from tears, but from a grief so deep it felt like drowning. I saw her at 10, braiding Clara's hair, promising to be my best girl forever. Now, she was selling my dreams to a thug like Tommy. My hands shook, and I gripped Clara's chair, fighting the urge to scream, to beg her ghost to tell me where I went wrong, raising them. The third shock came as Marcus arrived, his briefcase packed with legal ammo. He slid a manila envelope across the desk, his face grim. Eddie, Ray found this in your mailbox delivered by courier an hour ago. It's from Vanessa's lawyer, claiming you signed a power of attorney giving her control of your entire portfolio, $250 million. It's a forgery, but it's good, and they've already filed it with the court. My heart stopped, the room tilting. Vanessa, who'd toasted me with champagne on Christmas Eve, had crafted a lie to seize my life's work. The betrayal was a physical weight, crushing my ribs, stealing my breath. I wanted to believe it was a mistake, that my kids hadn't sunk this low. But the evidence was undeniable. They weren't just after money, they wanted to erase my autonomy, to lock me in a cage of their making. My mind spiraled. Was I too stubborn, too blind to their flaws? Or had they always been this cruel, waiting for Clara's death to strike? Then the door slammed open, and Vince Carver swaggered in, uninvited, his cheap suit reeking of cigarette smoke. Well, well, Whitaker. Still sitting on your throne, you old fuck. Your kids are done with your broke-down ass. That Marina deal? Sealed. 75 million, baby, and your name's already on the dotted line. Keep fighting, and we'll have you in a nursing home by next week, drooling in a wheelchair. His words were a street fight taunt, raw and filthy, each syllable a punch to my soul. Ray, who'd followed him in, grabbed Vince's arm, his voice a growl. Get the hell out, Carver, or I'll make you eat that smirk. Vince jerked free, tossing a crumpled contract on the desk. Read it and weep, Grandpa. Your empire's ours now. He strutted out, leaving the air toxic with his arrogance. Maria, who'd been hovering near the door, burst into tears. Mr. Whitaker, how could they do this? You gave them everything. Her loyalty, fierce and unyielding, was a lifeline, but it deepened the wound. Sammy clenched his fists, his voice low. Eddie, I've got recordings of Tommy and Olivia planning this for months. We can bury them in court. Marcus nodded, already drafting a response. We'll file a countersuit, expose the forgeries, and freeze every asset they've touched. But Eddie, this is war now. They're not stopping. His words were steady, but they couldn't dull the ache in my chest, a pain not of age, but of a father betrayed by the children he'd raised to love him. I stood, pacing to the window, Clara's lavender garden blurred by the rain. My mind was a battlefield, torn between fury and despair. I saw James at 16, helping me paint the deck, his laugh bright as the sun. I saw Olivia at prom, twirling in a dress I'd bought, calling me her king. Now, they were thieves, their love a lie I'd believed too long. The grief was a tidal wave, threatening to pull me under, but Clara's strength anchored me. She'd hidden the vineyard for this moment, knowing they'd come for me. I turned to Marcus, Ray, Sammy, and Maria, their faces a fortress against the storm. We don't just fight, I said, my voice hard as steel. We end this. They want my empire? They'll get a lesson instead. I sat back at the desk, opening a drawer where Clara had tucked a small sealed envelope I hadn't noticed before. Inside was a key, brass and heavy, with a note in her cursive. For the Napa safe deposit box, your final shield. My breath caught. Clara had planned for this, a secret even I didn't know. Whatever was in that box, documents, assets, another 30 million, it was my trump card. The pain of betrayal still burned, but a new fire kindled. Resolve. They thought they could break me, but I was Edward Whitaker, and I'd built this empire from nothing. I'd fight not with fists, but with the sharp, clean edges of Clara's legacy. The rain outside slowed, and for a moment, the lavender seemed to nod, as if Clara herself was watching, waiting for me to rise. The drizzle had stopped, leaving Seattle's skyline sharp against a sky that felt like it was holding its grudges. I stood in Clara's study, the brass key to her Napa safe deposit box heavy in my pocket, a talisman against the betrayals piling up like unpaid bills. My $50 million cash reserves, my $200 million empire, and now the $30 million vineyard, Clara's final shield, were all under siege by James, Olivia, Vanessa, Vince Carver, and their lackey, Tommy Vega. Each new stab of deceit, 5 million stolen, 75 million in forged marina deals, 40 million for my condo cut deeper, not just into my wealth, but into my soul. The lavender outside Clara's window stood still, as if mourning the family I'd lost to greed. My heart was a war drum, pounding with rage and sorrow, torn between the man who'd built this life and the father who'd failed to see his children's true colors. Are you enjoying the story so far? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Just drop a quick comment below to share how you feel. It only takes a few seconds, but your words give me the motivation and inspiration to make every chapter more thrilling and engaging. Go ahead, let me know what's on your mind. And now, let's dive back into the story. The first shock came at noon, a text from Emily, my granddaughter, her words a gut punch. Grandpa, Mom just told me you're selling the house to fund my college. Is that true? I don't want it. My breath caught. A sob I choked back. Olivia had lied to Emily, using her as a pawn to justify their theft, painting me as the one dismantling Clara's legacy. I saw Emily's face, her wide eyes at 7, holding my hand at Pike Place Market, trusting me to keep her safe. Now, her own mother was poisoning that trust, turning my love for her into a weapon. My hands shook as I typed back. Not true, kiddo. The house is mine. You're safe. But inside, I was unraveling. The pain of Olivia's manipulation, a fresh wound. How could she drag Emily into this, tarnishing the one pure thing left in my life? I wanted to call her, to scream, but Clara's voice steadied me. Fight your way, Eddie. The second blow landed as I sat with Marcus, Ray, and Maria, plotting our counterstrike. Sammy Ruiz burst in, his face flushed with urgency. Eddie, I hacked into Derek's email, found a chain with Vanessa and a crooked judge, Harlan Pike. They're pushing a conservatorship hearing next week, claiming you've got dementia. They've got fake medical records. Paid a doctor $25,000 to lie. James signed off, said you're a liability to the family fortune. Dementia. The word was a Molotov cocktail exploding in my chest. My own son, who I'd taught to balance a checkbook, now branding me a mental wreck to steal $250 million. I saw him at 20, crashing my old Mustang, laughing it off because I'd always bailed him out. Now, he was bailing on me, selling my mind to a corrupt judge. My vision darkened, grief and fury colliding like a car crash. I gripped the desk, fighting the urge to drive to James's office and smash his smug face through his mahogany desk. Was I too forgiving, letting their failures slide? Or had they always been this venomous, waiting for Clara's absence to strike? The third shock hit as Maria, tears streaming, handed me a voice recording she'd found on Olivia's old phone, left in the guest room. I played it, and Vanessa's voice slithered out, cold and calculated. Olivia, we split the $80 million San Juan estate 3 ways. James gets the marina, you get the condo, I take the cash. Eddie's too far gone to notice. Olivia's laugh followed, sharp and cruel. Let's make it quick. Dad's a sitting duck, thinking he's still king of the hill. My heart stopped, the room spinning. My daughter, my little girl who'd once begged me to read her bedtime stories, now plotting sobersing my empire like a common thief. The betrayal was a chainsaw, ripping through every memory of her love. I wanted to believe it was just greed, but it was worse contempt, a deliberate dismantling of my life. My chest burned, not with age, but with the agony of being erased by my own blood. Then the doorbell screamed, and Vince Carver stood there, flanked by Tommy Vega, their grins dripping with malice. Yo, Whitaker, you still playing the tough guy? Vince sneered, his voice pure street filth. Your kids are done with your pathetic ass. That conservatorship's a lock. Harlan's got your number, old man. $80 million from San Juan's already spent, and you're too damn senile to stop it. Tommy chuckled, leaning in. Give it up, geezer. You're a ghost already, haunting your own damn life. Their words were a street brawl, raw and vicious, each one a kick to my soul. Ray lunged forward, but I held up a hand, my voice ice cold. You're trespassing, Carver. Get off my property, or I'll have you arrested. Vince laughed, spitting on the porch. Keep dreaming, you washed up has-been. We own you now. Inside, Maria sobbed, clutching my arm. They can't do this, Mr. Whitaker. Clara would fight. Her loyalty was a beacon, but it deepened the wound. My family's betrayal stood in stark contrast to her devotion. Sammy growled. I've got Harlan's financials dirty money from Vince. We can take him down. Marcus nodded, his pen flying across a legal pad. We'll file an emergency injunction, expose the judge, and void the conservatorship. The Napa key, use it, Eddie. Whatever's in that box, it's your ace. Ray's fists clenched. I say we beat the truth out of Tommy first. Bastard's got it coming. I paced to the window, the lavender garden, a silent witness to my collapse. My mind was a storm, James's boyish grin at a Mariners game, Olivia's hugs after school, now poisoned by their schemes. Had I spoiled them, given too much, or had they always been wolves, waiting for my weakness? The pain was a vice, squeezing my heart until I could barely breathe. Clara's key burned in my pocket, her final gift, a lifeline I hadn't yet used. I turned to my allies, their faces fierce with loyalty. We hit hard, I said, my voice steady despite the chaos inside. Sammy, leak the judge's dirt to the press. Marcus, bury them in court. Ray, secure the properties. Maria, keep Emily safe. No one tells her anything. They nodded, a fortress of trust against the traitors. The key in my pocket felt heavier, a promise of Clara's foresight. They thought they'd broken me, but I was Edward Whitaker, and I'd burn their world down before I let them win. The Seattle sky hung low, a slate-gray shroud over my waterfront mansion, as if it knew the weight of the war I was waging. I stood in Clara's study, the brass key to her Napa safe deposit box, clutched in my fist, its edges biting into my palm like a vow. The betrayals had piled up James and Olivia's schemes, to steal my $50 million cash reserves, Vanessa's $5 million theft, forged deals for my $75 million marina, $40 million condo, and $80 million San Juan estate, all backed by Vince Carver and Tommy Vega's venomous greed. Each revelation was a fresh wound, slicing through the memories of my children's love, leaving only the raw ache of their contempt. Clara's lavender garden outside stood defiant, its scent a faint echo of her strength. But inside, my heart was a battlefield, torn between the father who'd given everything and the man now forced to fight his own blood. The first shock came as I prepared to leave for Napa, the key, my only clue to Clara's final shield. My phone buzzed with a voicemail from Karen, James's wife, her voice dripping with fake concern. "Eddie, we're worried about you. Holed up in that big house, losing it. James says you're a danger to yourself, hallucinating about Clara's secrets. Sign the trust, or we'll make sure the courts lock you up." Her words were a street-sharp jab, laced with the kind of condescension you hear in dive bars when someone's sizing you up for a con. My son's wife, who I'd welcomed to every Thanksgiving, now accusing me of madness to justify their theft of $250 million. My chest tightened, a mix of fury and despair so intense I nearly dropped the phone. I saw Karen at our lake house, laughing with Clara over wine, and now she was spitting on that memory. I wanted to call her back, to unleash a tirade that would burn through her lies, but Clara's voice steadied me. "Fight your way, Eddie." The second blow landed as I packed a bag for Napa. Maria, her hands trembling, rushed in with a printed email she'd found on James's tablet, left carelessly in my guest room. It was from Tommy Vega to a shady developer, boasting about a deal to sell my Vashon Island retreat $90 million using a forged deed with my signature. "Whitaker's done," Tommy wrote. "James says the old bastard's too far gone to fight. We'll have the cash by Friday. $90 million, another piece of Clara's legacy, peddled like cheap real estate." My knees buckled, and I sank onto the couch, the email crumpling in my fist. James, my boy who'd once built sandcastles with me on that very island, now selling our past for profit. The betrayal was a wildfire, burning through every memory of his childhood trust. My mind churned. Had I been too blind, seeing only their potential? Or had they always been this ruthless, waiting for my grief to make me vulnerable? The third shock hit as I drove to the airport. Sammy Ruiz riding shotgun, his jaw tight. His phone pinged with a new lead. "Eddie, I got a tip from a buddy at the courthouse. Olivia's been meeting with a shady shrink, Dr. Carla Finch, who's ready to testify you've got Alzheimer's bought and paid for with $50,000 from Vanessa. They're planning to use it to seize your entire portfolio, $250 million, at the conservatorship hearing. Alzheimer's, the lie was a guillotine designed to sever my freedom, my legacy, my very self. Olivia, who I'd carried piggyback through Pike Place, now paying to erase my mind. My vision blurred, not from tears, but from a grief so deep it felt like my soul was cracking. I gripped the steering wheel, fighting the urge to turn back, to confront her and demand why she'd traded my love for a payout. Was it my fault, giving them too much, shielding them from consequences, or had their hearts always been this cold? Then my phone rang, and Vince Carver's voice slithered through, raw as a back alley fight. "Yo, Whitaker, you still think you're hot shit? Your daughter's got you pegged as a drooling idiot, and we've got the papers to prove it. That $90 million Vashon deal's done. Old man, your signature's already on it. Thanks to Tommy. Keep fighting, and we'll have you in a padded room before you can blink." His laugh was a chainsaw, cutting through my resolve. I parked the car, my voice ice cold. "You're a dead man walking, Carver. Touch my empire and I'll bury you in legal hell," he snorted. "Keep talking, you dried up fossil. You're finished." The line went dead, leaving my heart pounding. A mix of rage and despair so raw it felt like I was bleeding inside. At the airport, Ray met us, his face grim but solid. "Eddie, I've got my crew watching your properties. Nobody's touching a damn thing." His loyalty was a lifeline, but it deepened the wound my children's betrayal stood in stark contrast to his steadfastness. Maria had insisted on coming, her eyes fierce with devotion. "For Mrs. Clara," she said, clutching a rosary. "She'd want me to protect you. Sammy handed me a burner phone. Use this in Napa. They're tracking your main line." Their trust was a fortress, but it couldn't dull the pain of my family's treachery. On the plane, I sat by the window staring at the clouds, Clara's key burning in my pocket. My mind was a storm, James's boyish grin as we fished on Vashon, Olivia's laughter at our old 4th of July barbecues, now poisoned by their schemes. Had I failed them, building an empire that turned them into monsters? Or had they chosen this path, seeing my love as weakness. The grief was a tidal wave, threatening to drown me, but Clara's strength anchored me. The Napa box was my last card to play, a secret she'd hidden for this moment. I landed in San Francisco, the air warm and heavy, and drove to Napa's oldest bank, a brick building that smelled of dust and permanence. Inside, the safe deposit box waited, its contents a mystery even to me. I slid the key in, my hands steady despite the chaos inside. The box opened to reveal a stack of documents, a trust naming Emily as sole beneficiary of a $100 million stock portfolio, a deed for a second Napa vineyard worth $60 million, and a letter in Clara's cursive. "Eddie, this is your sword. Wield it when they think they've won." My breath caught, tears I couldn't stop burning my eyes. Clara had seen this coming, built a fortress to protect Emily and me. The pain of betrayal still roared, but a new fire kindled resolve, sharp as a blade. They thought they'd broken me, but I was Edward Whitaker, and with Clara's sword I'd carve my way out of their trap. The Napa Valley sun burned low, casting golden streaks across the vineyard Clara had hidden for me, its $60 million rows of vines a silent testament to her foresight. I stood outside the bank, the safe deposit box's contents, a $100 million stock portfolio for Emily, a second vineyard deed, and Clara's letter. "Eddie, this is your sword tucked into a leather satchel slung across my shoulder." The weight of betrayal clung heavier. James, Olivia, Vanessa, Vince Carver, Tommy Vega, and now Karen and Dr. Carla Finch, all conspiring to strip my $50 million cash reserves and $200 million empire, their lies branding me senile, a relic to be plundered. My heart was a furnace, grief and rage battling within, each memory of my children's love now a shard of glass cutting deeper. The vines swayed in the breeze, whispering Clara's strength. But inside, I was a man at war, torn between the father who'd built a legacy for his family and the warrior forced to defend it from them. The first shock hit as I drove back to my Napa hotel, the satchel on the passenger seat. My burner phone buzzed with a voicemail from Olivia's husband, Tom, his voice slick with false sympathy. "Eddie, man, you're making this hard on everyone. Olivia's stressing, says you're losing it, hiding assets like some paranoid geezer. We know about the Napa Vineyard $60 million, right? Hand it over, or we'll make sure that conservatorship sticks, and you'll be lucky to keep your own damn socks." His words were a street-smart jab, the kind of taunt you hear in a bar fight before the fists fly. My son-in-law, who I'd toasted at his wedding, now threatening to lock me away to steal Clara's final gift. My chest burned, a raw ache of betrayal, as I pictured Tom at our family barbecues, grinning while Clara flipped burgers. Now, he was a thief, spitting on her memory. I wanted to ram my truck into his office, to scream until he understood the pain he'd caused, but Clara's voice steadied me. "Fight your way, Eddie." The second blow came as I checked into the hotel, a quaint inn smelling of oak and wine. Sammy Ruiz called, his voice tight with urgency. "Eddie, I got a lead from a contact at the SEC. Vanessa's been shorting your company's stock $20 million in bets against you, using insider info from James. They're tanking your empire to buy it back cheap, claiming you're too unstable to run it." My breath caught, a knife of betrayal twisting deeper. James, who I'd mentored through business school, now sabotaging the company I'd built from a single lot to a $200 million juggernaut. I saw him at 25, shadowing me at board meetings, his eyes bright with pride. Now he was betting against me, profiting from my ruin. My hands shook, grief flooding my veins like poison. Had I taught him too well, or not well enough? Was this my failure, or his choice to sell my legacy for scraps? The pain was a tidal wave, threatening to drown me, but Clara's vineyard, shimmering outside, held me upright. The third shock landed as I sat in the hotel bar, sipping a bourbon that burned like my rage. Maria texted, her words frantic. "Mr. Whitaker, I found a hidden camera in your study. It's been streaming to Vanessa's cloud for months. They've got footage of you reading Clara's papers, labeled it proof of paranoia. Olivia approved it. A camera, in my own home, recording my grief, my private moments with Clara's memory, now twisted into evidence against me. My daughter, who I'd rocked to sleep as a child, had invaded my sanctuary, turning my pain into ammunition. My vision blurred, not from the bourbon, but from a sorrow so deep it felt like my soul was fracturing. I wanted to believe Olivia could be redeemed, that this was a mistake. But the evidence was a noose, her approval, her laughter in that recording, her hand in this betrayal. My mind spiraled. Had I been too trusting, seeing only her potential? Or had she always been this cruel, waiting for my weakest moment to strike? Then the bar door swung open, and Tommy Vega strutted in, his smirk pure venom, flanked by a new face, Lena Cox, a private equity shark I'd crossed years ago. Well, Whitaker, you old fuck. Still think you're untouchable? Tommy sneered, his voice raw as a street brawl. Your little Napa hideout ain't shit. We know about the second vineyard, 60 million, and Lena's got buyers lined up. Your kids say you're a nutcase, and we're gonna cash out before you're drooling in a home. Lena's eyes glinted, cold and predatory. Give it up, Eddie. You're a dinosaur, and your empire's ours. Their words were a double-barreled shotgun, blasting through my resolve. I stood, my voice low but deadly. You're on borrowed time, Vega. Touch my vineyards and I'll bury you in court. Tommy laughed, spitting on the floor. Keep dreaming, Grandpa. You're already dead. Ray, who'd followed me to Napa, stepped in, his fists clenched. Back off, Tommy, or I'll make you regret it. Lena smirked but retreated, leaving Tommy's taunt hanging in the air. Maria, who'd joined us, clutched my arm, tears in her eyes. They can't do this, Mr. Whitaker. Clara's watching. Her loyalty was a beacon, but it deepened the wound my family's betrayal burned brighter against her devotion. Sammy, nursing a coffee, growled, I've got Lena's financials dirty deals tied to Vince. We can expose them. Marcus, on speakerphone from Seattle, added, I'm filing a motion to block the stock shorting and void the camera evidence. The Napa Trust is ironclad, Eddie. Use it. I stepped outside, the vineyard's golden light a stark contrast to the darkness inside me. My mind was a war zone. James's proud smile at his first deal, Olivia's hugs after ballet recitals, now poisoned by their schemes. Had I built an empire that corrupted them, or had they chosen to betray me? The grief was a vice, squeezing my heart until I could barely breathe. Clara's letter, wield it when they think they've won, burned in my mind. The $100 million portfolio for Emily, the $60 million vineyard. They were my arsenal, but they couldn't heal the wound of my children's contempt. I turned to Ray, Maria, and Sammy, their faces fierce with loyalty. We hit back, I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside. Expose Lena, block the hearing, protect Emily's trust. They want a war, they'll get one. The vines rustled, as if Clara herself was nodding, her sword in my hand, ready to carve a path through the betrayal. The Napa Valley twilight draped the vineyard in a hush, the $60 million vines stretching into the dusk like silent sentinels of Clara's legacy. I sat on the hotel's terrace, the leather satchel beside me, heavy with her secrets. A $100 million stock portfolio for Emily, a second vineyard deed, and her letter, Eddie, this is your sword. Now my lifeline against the relentless betrayals. James, Olivia, Vanessa, Vince Carver, Tommy Vega, Karen, Tom, Lena Cox, and Dr. Carla Finch had woven a web of deceit, targeting my $50 million cash reserves and $200 million empire with forged documents, false diagnoses, and hidden cameras. Each lie was a fresh wound, carving through the love I'd poured into my children, leaving only the raw sting of their contempt. The vine's faint rustle carried Clara's strength, but inside, my heart was a crucible, melting under the heat of grief and rage, torn between the father who'd built a future for his family and the man now fighting to reclaim it from their greed. The first shock came as I sipped coffee, the bitter taste mirroring my mood. My burner phone pinged with a text from Ray, his words urgent. Eddie, found a bug in your truck audio, streaming to Vanessa's server. James paid for it, said you're unhinged and need monitoring. My breath caught, a sharp pain slicing through my chest. My own son, who I'd taught to drive in that very truck, had wired it to spy on me, turning my private moments into evidence for their conservatorship plot. I pictured James at 17, grinning as we cruised along the coast, his trust in me absolute. Now, he was eavesdropping on my life, labeling me a madman to justify stealing $250 million. My hands shook, grief flooding my veins like acid. I wanted to rip the bug out, to confront him and demand how he could desecrate our bond, but Clara's voice anchored me, fight your way, Eddie. The second blow landed as I met Marcus at a Napa diner, its neon sign buzzing like my nerves. He slid a folder across the table, his face grim. Eddie, Sammy uncovered a bombshell. Olivia's been working with a hacker, some creep named Jaden Pike, no relation to the judge who cracked your personal email. They've got your correspondence with Lila, twisted it to claim your hiding assets, specifically a $100 million offshore account they say you forgot about. My heart stopped, the diner's clatter fading. Olivia, who I'd taught to write thank you notes, now hacking my life to paint me as a tax-dodging lunatic. The betrayal was a guillotine, severing every memory of her childhood warmth. I saw her at 12, curled up with Clara, reading poetry. Now, she was a thief, plundering my privacy for profit. My mind churned. Had I sheltered her too much, blinding myself to her flaws? Or had she always been this ruthless, waiting for my grief to strike? The pain was a vice, squeezing until I could barely breathe. The third shock hit as Maria called, her voice breaking. "Mr. Whitaker, I overheard Karen at the market, bragging to a friend. She and Tom convinced Emily, you're cutting her off. Said you're selling the vineyards to save yourself from bankruptcy. They're turning her against you. Emily, my granddaughter, the one pure light in this storm, now poisoned by lies." My chest burned, a sob I choked back. Karen, who I'd gifted a car for her 30th birthday, was weaponizing my love for Emily to isolate me further. I pictured Emily's confused eyes, her trust in me fraying under their manipulation. The betrayal wasn't just financial, it was a theft of my family's heart. I wanted to drive to her dorm, to hold her and swear I'd never abandon her, but the weight of their deceit pinned me down. Was I too proud, too stubborn to see their greed? Or had they chosen to destroy me, knowing exactly the pain it would cause? Then the diner door slammed open, and Lena Cox stormed in, her heels clicking like gunfire, Tommy Vega trailing like a loyal dog. "Yo, Whitaker, you pathetic old shit." Lena sneered, her voice pure street venom. "Your grandkid's done with you, crying to Olivia about your bankruptcy. That $100 million account? It's ours now, and your sorry ass can't stop it. Keep clutching those vines, and we'll have you locked in a loony bin by Monday." Tommy grinned, leaning in. "You're a fucking ghost, man. Your empire's dust." Their words were a street brawl, each syllable a punch to my soul. Marcus stood, his voice calm but deadly. "You're overplaying your hand, Cox. We've got your hackers' emails. Step off, or you're done." Lena laughed, tossing a USB drive on the table. "Good luck, lawyer man. That's got your client's confessions all fake, all damning." Ray, who joined us, grabbed Tommy's collar, his voice a growl. "Get out of here, punk, before I snap your neck." Lena smirked but retreated, leaving the USB drive like a ticking bomb. Maria clutched my hand, tears streaming. "They're monsters, Mr. Whitaker. Clara would fight for you. Her loyalty was a lifeline, but it deepened the wound my family's betrayal burned brighter against her devotion." Sammy, already plugging the USB into his laptop, muttered, "It's a setup, Eddie. Forged audio, manipulated emails. We can debunk it." Marcus nodded. "We'll file for discovery, expose Jaden's hack, and bury Lena's crew. The Vineyard Trust is untouchable, and Emily's portfolio is safe." And I stepped outside. The vineyard's dusk glow, a stark contrast to the darkness inside me. My mind was a battlefield. James's laughter on our fishing trips, Olivia's bedtime stories, Emily's hand in mine at the market, now all poisoned by their lies. Had I built an empire that turned them into vultures, or had they chosen to betray me, knowing the pain it would inflict? The grief was a tidal wave, threatening to pull me under, but Clara's sword, her trust, her vineyards held me steady. I turned to my allies, their faces fierce with loyalty. "We don't stop," I said, my voice hard despite the storm inside. "Expose Jaden, shred the fakes, protect Emily. They think they've won? They'll choke on their own lies." The vines rustled, as if Clara was nodding, her sword sharp in my hand, ready to cut through the betrayal. The Napa Valley night wrapped the vineyard in a velvet quiet, the $60 million vines standing like guardians under a star-scattered sky. I sat on the hotel terrace, Clara's leather satchel open beside me, her sword $100 million stock portfolio for Emily, a second vineyard deed, and her letter, my only shield, against the onslaught of betrayals. James, Olivia, Vanessa, Vince Carver, Tommy Vega, Karen, Tom, Lena Cox, Dr. Carla Finch, and now Jaden Pike had woven a tapestry of deceit. Their lies, bugs in my truck, hacked emails, fake diagnoses aimed at dismantling my $50 million cash reserves and $200 million empire. Each betrayal was a fresh scar, slicing through the love I'd built for my family, leaving a raw, bleeding wound where trust once lived. The vine's soft rustle carried Clara's strength, but my heart was a furnace, burning with grief and rage, torn between the father who dreamed of a legacy and the warrior now fighting to save it from his own blood. The first shock came at midnight, my burner phone buzzing with a voice message from James's lawyer, a slick shark named Greg Nolan. His tone was oily, street sharp. Yo, Whitaker, you old prick, you're making this messy. James says you're a nutcase, hoarding cash like a damn squirrel. We know about that 100 million portfolio. Think you're slick hiding it for the kid? Sign it over, or we'll shred you in court, lock you up in a home where you belong. His words were a back alley knife, cutting deep with their casual cruelty. My son, who I'd taught to throw a baseball, now hiring vultures to strip me of Emily's future. My chest burned. A sob caught in my throat as I pictured James at 10, cheering at a Mariners game, his faith in me absolute. Now, he was selling my soul for profit, using Emily's trust to bait me. I wanted to storm his office, to scream until he felt my pain, but Clara's voice steadied me. Fight your way, Eddie. The second blow landed as I met Ray and Maria for breakfast at a Napa cafe, the air thick with espresso and tension. Sammy Ruiz burst in, his eyes wild. Eddie, I got a tip from a whistleblower at Vanessa's firm. She's been leaking your financials to a rival developer, some sleaze named Mitch Duran. They're planning to seize your Tacoma warehouse, $50 million, by claiming you defaulted on a fake loan. Olivia's signature is on the paperwork, calling you unfit to manage. My heart stopped, the cafe's hum fading. Olivia, who I danced with at her sweet 16, now forging loans to gut my empire. The betrayal was a wildfire, burning through memories of her laughter at our old 4th of July picnics. I saw her at 8, clinging to my hand at the zoo, now a stranger peddling lies for profit. My hands shook, grief and fury colliding like a storm. Had I given her too much, blinding myself to her greed, or had she always been this cold, waiting for my weakest moment? The pain was a noose, tightening until I could barely breathe. The third shock hit as Maria, tears streaming, handed me a photo she'd found in a drawer at my mansion, sent by courier from Karen. It was a family picture, me, Clara, James, Olivia, Emily, at a lake house barbecue, defaced with red marker. My face was circled, labeled senile, and Clara's was crossed out. A note in Karen's handwriting read, Eddie, let go of the past. The vineyards are ours, now 60 million each. Emily doesn't need you. My breath caught, a sob I couldn't suppress. Karen, who I'd welcomed like a daughter, had desecrated Clara's memory, weaponizing our family's joy to steal Emily's future. The photo, once a treasure, was now a dagger, its defacement a deliberate act to erase me. My mind spiraled. Had I failed them, building an empire that turned them into monsters? Or had they chosen to destroy me, knowing the pain it would cause? The grief was a tidal wave, threatening to drown me, but Clara's vineyard, glowing under the stars, held me upright. Then the cafe door slammed open, and Mitch Duran strutted in, his suit screaming money, Tommy Vega at his side like a loyal pit bull. Well, well, Whitaker, you washed-up old fuck. Mitch sneered, his voice raw as a street fight. Your kids are done with your sorry ass. That Tacoma deal's locked 50 million, and your name's already on the dotted line. Keep fighting, and we'll have you in a straitjacket by sundown. Tommy grinned, leaning in. You're a dead man, Grandpa. Your empire's ours. Their words were a double-barreled shotgun, blasting through my resolve. Ray lunged, but I held him back, my voice ice-cold. You're playing a losing game, Duran. Touch my warehouse, and I'll bury you in court. Mitch laughed, tossing a fake contract on the table. Keep dreaming, you fossil. You're finished. Maria clutched my arm, her voice breaking. They're devils, Mr. Whitaker. Clara would be ashamed. Her loyalty was a beacon, but it deepened the wound. My family's betrayal burned brighter against her devotion. Sammy, already texting his contact, growled. I've got Mitch's bank records, dirty transfers tied to Vanessa. We can nail him. Marcus, on a secure call, added, I'm drafting a federal complaint against Duran and Nolan. The portfolio and vineyards are locked for Emily. We'll crush their conservatorship scam. Ray's fists clenched. Let me at Tommy first. Bastard's got a beating coming. Impro. I stepped outside, the vineyard's starlit glow, a stark contrast to the darkness inside me. My mind was a war zone, James's cheers at our old ball games, Olivia's hugs at Christmas, Emily's trust at the market, now poisoned by their lies. Had I built an empire that corrupted them, or had they chosen to betray me, knowing the pain it would inflict? The grief was a vice, squeezing my heart until I could barely breathe. Clara's letter, wield it when they think they've won, burned in my mind. The $100 million portfolio, the $60 million vineyards, they were my arsenal, but they couldn't heal the wound of my family's contempt. I turned to Ray, Maria, and Sammy, their faces fierce with loyalty. We hit harder, I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside. Expose Mitch, shred the fakes, protect Emily. They think they've won? They'll choke on their greed. The vines rustled, as if Clara was nodding, her sword sharp in my hand, ready to carve through the betrayal. The Napa morning dawned sharp, the $60 million vineyard bathed in a light that felt like Clara's quiet defiance. I stood on the hotel terrace, clutching her leather satchel, its contents a $100 million stock portfolio for Emily, a second vineyard deed, and her letter, Eddie, this is your sword. My last bastion against the tidal wave of betrayals. James, Olivia, Vanessa, Vince Carver, Tommy Vega, Karen, Tom, Lena Cox, Dr. Carla Finch, Jaden Pike, Greg Nolan, and now Mitch Duran had woven a net of lies, from bugs in my truck to forged loans for my $50 million Tacoma warehouse, all aimed at shattering my $200 million empire. Each betrayal was a fresh wound, tearing through the love I'd poured into my family, leaving only the raw ache of their contempt. The vines stood tall, whispering Clara's strength, but my heart was a battleground, torn between the father who'd built a legacy and the warrior now fighting to save it from those he'd once cherished. The first shock came as I sipped coffee, the bitter taste a mirror to my soul. My burner phone lit up with a voicemail from Vanessa herself, her voice dripping with street-sharp venom. Yo, Whitaker, you washed-up old fuck. You think you're outsmarting us? We know about your little Napa stash, $100 million for the kid? That's ours now. James and Olivia say you're a senile wreck, and we've got a judge ready to sign you into a home. Give it up or we'll bury you so deep you'll choke on your own damn tears. Her words were a back-alley blade, slicing through my resolve. My financial advisor, who I'd trusted with my fortune, now mocking my grief to steal Emily's future. My chest burned, a sob caught in my throat as I pictured Vanessa at my Christmas Eve dinner, toasting my health while plotting my ruin. I wanted to storm her office, to smash her smug face through her glass desk, but Clara's voice steadied me. Fight your way, Eddie. The second blow landed as I met Marcus and Sammy at a Napa law office, the air thick with the scent of ink and leather. Ray burst in, his face red with fury, clutching a tablet. Eddie, I found a contract on a dark web server. Olivia sold your private jet, $30 million, to a Russian buyer through Mitch Duran. She told them you're bankrupt, said you approved it in a lucid moment. Tommy Vega's already spending the deposit. My heart stopped, the room tilting. My daughter, who I'd flown to Paris for her 18th birthday, now selling my jet Clara's dream for our retirement adventures for profit. The betrayal was a wildfire, burning through memories of her laughter as we soared over the Rockies. I saw her at 15, sketching clouds from the jet's window, now a stranger peddling my dreams. My hands shook, grief and rage colliding like a storm. Had I spoiled her, blinding myself to her greed, or had she always been this cruel, waiting for my vulnerability? The pain was a noose, tightening until I could barely breathe. The third shock hit as Maria called, her voice trembling with rage. Mr. Whitaker, I found a letter at your house, slipped under the door. It's from Karen and Tom, addressed to Emily's college dean, claiming you're a danger to her, that you're funneling dirty money, $100 million into her trust to dodge taxes. They're trying to get her expelled. My breath caught, a sob I couldn't suppress. Karen and Tom, who I'd hosted at countless family dinners, now slandering me to destroy Emily's future. The letter was a dagger, twisting through my love for my granddaughter, the one pure light in this darkness. I pictured Emily's confused tears, her trust in me shattered by their lies. The betrayal wasn't just financial, it was a theft of my family's heart. My mind spiraled. Had I given them too much, creating monsters? Or had they chosen to destroy me, knowing the pain it would cause? The grief was a tidal wave, threatening to drown me, but Clara's vineyard, glowing in the dawn, held me upright. Then the office door crashed open, and Greg Nolan stormed in, his suit crisp but his eyes wild, Tommy Vega at his side like a rabid dog. Yo, Whitaker, you pathetic old shit, Nolan sneered, his voice raw as a street fight. Your kids are done with your broke-ass legacy. That jet's gone, $30 million, and your grandkids' trust? We're liquidating it. Keep fighting, and we'll have you in a psych ward by tomorrow, drooling over your own damn failures. Tommy grinned, leaning in. You're a fucking corpse, man. Your empire's ours. Their words were a double-barreled shotgun blasting through my soul. Marcus stood, his voice calm but lethal. You're done, Nolan. We've got your Russian deal on record. Step off, or you're finished. Nolan laughed, tossing a forged trust document on the desk. Good luck, lawyer boy. That's got Whitaker's signature game over. Ray grabbed Tommy's arm, his voice a growl. "Get out of here, punk, or I'll break your damn face." Nolan smirked but retreated, leaving the document like a ticking bomb. Maria clutched my hand, tears streaming. "They're evil, Mr. Whitaker. Clara would fight for you. Her loyalty was a lifeline, but it deepened the wound my family's betrayal burned brighter against her devotion." Sammy, already hacking into Nolan's server, muttered, "I've got their wire transfers dirty money to Russia. We can bury them." Marcus nodded. "We'll file an international fraud complaint, void the jet sale, and protect Emily's trust." "The vineyards are locked, Eddie." I stepped outside. The vineyard's morning light, a stark contrast to the darkness inside me. My mind was a war zone. James's cheers at our old barbecues, Olivia's hugs at graduation, Emily's laughter at the market, now poisoned by their lies. Had I built an empire that corrupted them, or had they chosen to betray me, knowing the pain it would inflict? The grief was a vice, squeezing my heart until I could barely breathe. Clara's letter, "Wield it when they think they've won," burned in my mind. The $100 million portfolio, the $60 million vineyards, they were my arsenal, but they couldn't heal the wound of my family's contempt. I turned to Ray, Maria, and Sammy, their faces fierce with loyalty. "We hit back now," I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside. "Expose Nolan, block the sale, save Emily. They think they've won? They'll choke on their lies." The vines rustled, as if Clara was nodding, her sword sharp in my hand, ready to carve through the betrayal. The Napa Valley sunrise painted the $60 million vineyard in hues of fire, each vine a silent witness to Clara's unyielding wisdom. I stood on the terrace, her leather satchel open, its contents a $100 million stock portfolio for Emily, a second vineyard deed, and her letter, "Eddie, this is your sword, my armor, against the relentless betrayals of James, Olivia, Vanessa, Vince Carver, Tommy Vega, Karen, Tom, Lena Cox, Dr. Carla Finch, Jaden Pike, Greg Nolan, and Mitch Duran. Their lies, bugs, hacked emails, forged loans, and slander had targeted my $50 million cash reserves and $200 million empire, each one a blade slicing through the love I'd built for my family. The vine's quiet strength echoed Clara's knowledge, but my heart was a crucible, seething with grief and rage, torn between the father who'd dreamed of a legacy and the warrior now standing to reclaim it. The lessons of betrayal had forged me anew, teaching me the hard education of trust's fragility. The first shock came as I prepared to return to Seattle, my burner phone buzzing with a voicemail from Olivia, her voice dripping with street-sharp venom. "Yo, Whitaker, you pathetic old fuck. You think you're slick hiding that $100 million trust for Emily? We've got a new play, your Bainbridge estate, $20 million, sold to a Chinese firm. James says you're too crazy to fight it, and we'll have you locked up before you blink." Her words were a back alley knife, cutting deep with cruel precision. My daughter, who I'd taught to ride a bike, now selling Clara's dream estate and branding me insane. My chest burned, a sob caught in my throat as I pictured Olivia at 6, giggling as I pushed her swing. Now, she was a thief, spitting on my love for profit. The betrayal was a wildfire, burning through every memory of her warmth. I wanted to confront her, to scream until she felt my pain, but Clara's knowledge steadied me. "Fight your way, Eddie." The second blow landed as I boarded a private jet rented, not my stolen one, back to Seattle. Sammy Ruiz called, his voice tight. "Eddie, I intercepted a wire from Lena Cox to a crooked DA, Ellie Vance. They're filing charges against you for tax evasion, claiming you hid $200 million in offshore accounts. Karen forged your tax returns, and Tom bribed a clerk with $50,000 to push it through." My heart stopped, the jet's hum fading. Karen and Tom, who I'd hosted at countless Thanksgivings, now framing me as a criminal to seize my empire. The betrayal was a guillotine, severing memories of their laughter at our lake house. I saw Tom at our wedding toast, calling me family, now a traitor. My hands shook, grief and fury colliding. Had I been too generous, blinding myself to their greed, or had they always been this ruthless? The pain was a noose, tightening until I could barely breathe. But Clara's lessons in resilience held me upright. The third shock hit as I landed in Seattle, Maria meeting me at the tarmac, her eyes red. "Mr. Whitaker," Emily called. "James told her you're disowning her, cutting her trust to fund your legal battles. He sent her a fake will your signature, claiming you're giving everything to charity." My breath caught, a sob I couldn't suppress. James, who I'd taught to fish, now lying to Emily, the one pure light in this storm, to break our bond. The betrayal wasn't just financial, it was a theft of my granddaughter's trust. I pictured Emily's tears, her faith in me shattered. My mind spiraled. Had I failed them, building an empire that turned them into monsters? Or had they chosen to destroy me, knowing the pain it would cause? The grief was a tidal wave, but Clara's knowledge, her education, and fighting smart kept me standing. Then my phone rang, and Mitch Duran's voice slithered through, raw as a street brawl. Yo, Whitaker, you done. For old shit, you still think you're king? Your kids sold you out. Bainbridge is gone, 20 million in Emily's trust. We're draining it. Keep fighting, and we'll have you in a cell, crying for your dead wife. His laugh was a chainsaw, cutting through my soul. I gripped the phone, my voice ice cold. You're finished, Duran. Touch my family, and I'll bury you. He snorted. Keep dreaming, Fossil. The line went dead, leaving my heart pounding, a mix of rage and despair so raw it felt like bleeding. Back at my mansion, Marcus, Ray, and Sammy waited, their faces grim but fierce. Marcus slid a legal brief across the table. Eddie, we've got Vance's bribe on record, Jaden's hack exposed, and the fake will debunked. The vineyards and Emily's trust are safe. Ray growled, I'm ready to smash Duran's face. Maria clutched a photo of Clara, tears streaming. She'd fight for you, Mr. Whitaker. Their loyalty was a lifeline, but it deepened the wound. My family's betrayal burned brighter against their devotion. I stood, Clara's satchel in hand. We end this now. File the charges. Expose Vance. Protect Emily. They want my empire? They'll get a lesson in justice. The hearing came a week later, a Seattle courtroom smelling of polish and tension. James and Olivia sat across from me, their faces cold, flanked by Nolan and Vance. Emily stood by my side, her eyes fierce but wet. The judge, a new face untainted by bribes, reviewed Marcus's evidence recordings, emails, forgeries. No basis for conservatorship or charges, he ruled, slamming the gavel. James's jaw dropped, Olivia's hands shook. Their empire of lies collapsed, my 250 million safe. Emily's trust intact. I looked at them, my voice steady. You thought you could break me, you forgot who I am. Emily squeezed my hand, her trust my true victory. Unlike the original tale, I didn't flee to a new life. I stayed, rebuilding with Emily, teaching her the lessons Clara left: knowledge of resilience, education, and love's strength. James and Olivia faced fraud charges, their greed, their prison. The lesson was clear. Betrayal may cut deep, but loyalty and truth cut deeper. To my viewers, this is the education of Lifeguard, what matters, learn from pain, and never let greed steal your heart. What did you feel watching this? Share your thoughts below. How does this story echo your reality? Hit that subscribe button on RevengeX for more gripping tales daily. Like and share to spread the knowledge, the lessons, the education of resilience. Here's to your strength, your health, your joy. Stay strong, stay healthy, live a peaceful life every day. Goodbye, and I'll see you in the next video. Stay healthy, my friends.